Welcome to Financial Issues, where we join reality with truth, helping you make the most of your money by honoring God with your investments. Now listen in as we give you the practical tools and advice you need to become a biblically responsible investor.
Good morning. Welcome to Financial Issues. Thanks for tuning in today. Financial Issues is a ministry to help educate people about financial issues from a biblical worldview. Our mission is twofold: to defund darkness by giving you a way to honor God in the way that you manage your investment portfolio, by giving you a biblically responsible investment strategy that's easy to follow. And our second part of our mission is to fund the light, to encourage you in the ways of stewardship, to be a joyful, generous, and obedient giver. Well, on today's show, we are going to have a Rapid Fire Friday, but we've got a special treat for you this morning. We'll get encouragement from the scriptures from Isaiah 49:1, and we'll help to bring you up in the know with the latest in the market and economic news for the day. But first, stewardship verse of the day comes from Isaiah 49:1. Listen to me, O coastlands, and give attention, you peoples from afar. The Lord called me from the womb, from the body of my mother, and he named my name. So God appointed his servant Isaiah, called him and named him from the womb for a mission to the nation. This verse underscores God's sovereignty, his intentional design, and his calling before birth, echoing themes of divine purpose, identity, and mission. These verses affirm the value of life before birth and reminds believers that God creates each person with a purpose. It encourages us to honor God's call and to live intentionally, knowing our lives are not accidents, but divinely purposed. Speaking of a man on a mission, we have a friend here today who is on a mission from God to save babies from abortion and to save mothers and fathers and their offspring from the pits of hell because their parents choose life, believed in Jesus, and raised their kids in the fear and admonition of the Lord, all because of the ordained day that they walked into a pre-born clinic. Here with me today, the founder and president of Pre-Born Ministries, Dan Steiner. Welcome, Dan. It's good to have you back.
Great to be here, Shana. Feels like home.
Great. So you are the man on the mission that I was talking about. Would you start by sharing with us your calling and how you were commissioned into the Lord's army to fight so tirelessly to push back on the darkness of abortion?
Well, I love your verse from Isaiah, and it's true for each one of us, not just you and I, but each one of us has a calling from God. David had one, says in my favorite verse, I've got actually more than one life verse, don't tell anybody, but the one that is relevant to our conversation this morning is Acts 13:36, which said David, after he fulfilled God's call in his generation, was laid to rest with his fathers. And the last half's morbid, but the first half is profound, written in the right of scriptures for all to see for perpetuity, that God had a purpose for David, and he fulfilled it in his generation. He fulfilled his calling. Each one of us have that calling. And as we're here this morning trying to raise ultrasound sessions and ultrasound machines for babies in the defining issue of our generation, abortion on demand, where weekly there's 800,000, nearly 1 million babies killed throughout the world, and we're the Christians on watch. This is on our watch. This is certainly one of God's purposes for the body of Christ, and I can't think of a better place to be than right here, right now, on Financial Issues Stewardship Ministry, the most pro-life broadcast ministry on the planet, because this is really, the listeners have done so much over the years. Not only have we together, you, the listener of Financial Issues and Pre-Born, partnered in saving literally tens of thousands of babies' lives. I exaggerate not a bit. But also the fact that were it not for Financial Issues and the founder, along with Jesus, Dan Steiner of Financial Issues, Pre-Born wouldn't be what it is today, having the reach and impact that it does, which we've saved like 380,000 babies. And that was because Dan Steiner and Yvonne met with my lovely wife and co-founder Valerie and I, and to say, yeah, we want to use our megaphone, as he would call it, to help ministries. And so he vetted us financially, as you might expect him to do, and thought, as did Ministry Watch, that we're a valid organization financially. You didn't know this, Shana, maybe, but last year when they rated us, Ministry Watch, which is a watchdog organization, said that Pre-Born was 18 out of 1,000 ministries they rated, one of 18 that got their Shining Light Award. That was for donor transparency, donor confidence. So Pre-Born does just three things. One is we save babies. Secondly, save souls, lead women to Christ, as you mentioned in the opening of the segment. And then thirdly, we do financial integrity, which fits really well with the mission statement of financial issues.
Yep. And that's one of the reasons that you guys, being good stewards, that's proof that you guys are good stewards of the funds that people donate to your ministry. And that's one of the reasons that you get our stamp of approval too. Well, as we're in the midst of this campaign to save babies from abortion, you've shared before that the battleground is changing since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and that for many women, their abortion facility is now their very own bathroom. How catastrophic is this?
It's terrible. Yeah, 64, probably more % of all abortions is your neighbor's teenage daughter's bathroom, where she has to go in every day after she has birthed her baby on the bathroom floor dead through this abortion. This is macabre, horrible. It's a horror story, frankly, for American women. And It happens 1,700 times a day that they're flushing babies down the toilets of America. And it's miserable what's happening. And it permeates every neighborhood. It isn't the abortion clinic, as you mentioned, anymore. It's the mailbox of all these women that get these abortion pills. And so Pre-Born is reaching out on the internet to stop that. They find the brick and mortar net, they find the abortion pill on the internet, and we're there trying to stop it. And recently, this is very interesting, Shana, we, along with about 100 other pro-life organizations, sent a petition to the Health and Human Services Director, RFK, citing the fact that there was a study done, this is dramatic, actually, between 2017 and 2023, longitudinal study of insurance claims, not ideological polling, insurance claims of women that had taken the abortion pill. And what they found in a survey of 865,000 women, no mean a number, right? Was that 11% of them that took this abortion pill ended up in severe hospitalizations.
Wow.
And it's not really a pill, it's two pills. It's mifepristone and misoprostol. And it's a delivery. It's killing the baby and delivering the baby on their bathroom floor or in their toilet. And this is, and it may not be a complete delivery. They have sepsis afterwards. They bleed for days. This is miserable. And so the day before yesterday, we sent the petition in to Kennedy. Yesterday, he announced that he's going to look into the safety of the abortion pill. So we may have some movement there. We'll see. He's not particularly fully ideologically aligned with us, but he's moving. And Trump is certainly pro-life. So
God's moving, and God's moving on his heart. He's moving on Trump's heart. And this is amazing. You talk about the work that Pre-Born does, in the clinic, showing the mother and the father, the baby on the ultrasound, letting them hear the heartbeat, ministering to their needs, to the fear that they have about bringing a baby into the world, not being prepared, administering the gospel, the life-saving gospel truth to them, and then now even getting involved on the political front. So I can't think of a more deserving organization of some of the dollars that God gives us. So how would you encourage someone who might be on the fence about giving? I mean, we're just about halfway through this month's campaign, and we're less than halfway there for what we want to raise. How would you encourage those listeners?
Well, just know that every dollar is used. If you give $15,000 for a machine, we use it for all $15,000 for a machine. If we give $28 for an ultrasound scan, all $28 goes to our clinic. And it might be, if you're listening, that you'll get something special like this. I'll show you this. Maybe I'll try. A woman did a 3-for-1. She's got triplets. Because that was a month and a half ago. So that ultrasound scan for $28 at a financial issues stewardship ministry listener underwrote saved 3 babies' lives in Miami, Florida. And that might be you, but one baby's life is certainly worth your $28. So we just encourage you to text deductibly, give to Pre-Born, and to also give to financial issues. There's usually a match with this campaign that the money given to Pre-Born is also matched to financial issues as well through the generosity of the donor.
Absolutely.
So it's a leveraging of your finances.
Running short on time here up to the end of the segment. Thanks, Dan. It's always so great to hear what a great steward Pre-Born Ministries has been. Stick around, folks. We got to take a break, but we'll be right back.
Navigating through investment options can be challenging, especially when you're determined to uphold your God-given values. Every dollar you invest is a vote for the world that you want to live in. Let your values guide your investment decisions and help to shape the culture in which we live. Become a beacon of light and pave the way with biblically responsible investing. Timothy Plan, where faith and finance collide. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
In a time when children are facing unprecedented challenges, the gospel stands as the greatest source of hope. At Crossroads Kids Club, we have the incredible opportunity to bring the message of Jesus into public schools nationwide. Join us in sharing the life-changing hope of the gospel with the next generation. The need is urgent, but God's love is powerful. Together, we can offer Christ's love to children who are longing for it. To join us, visit reachOurschools.com. That's reachOurschools.com.
Each May, we celebrate Mother's Day and the gift that mothers are to us. This May, you can help make motherhood possible by supporting Pre-Born. Pre-Born partners with clinics across the country, providing free ultrasounds and sharing the hope of Jesus Christ with women who are abortion-minded. When you give to Pre-Born, you're giving these women a chance to choose life. Go to preborn.com/FISM to give today. That's preborn.com/FISM.
Securities offered through G.A. Reppel & Company, a registered broker-dealer and investment advisor, member FINRA and SIPC. Opinions expressed by Shana are hers alone and are for informational purposes only, and do not necessarily represent those of G.A. Reppel or the outlet on which you are listening. You should consider how the information applies to your situation prior to personally implementing it, and consult any financial professional you work with to make sure it's applicable to your financial plan.
Welcome back to Financial Issues. So I hope that you didn't miss that first segment. We had Dan Steiner on with Pre-Born Ministries, their president and founder, and he was telling us a lot of things. He always has such great information, and it's always such an encouragement for us to have a place to fund the light, to be sure that the dollars that we're giving are used in the right way. Pre-Born Ministries is a great steward of the funds that they received. They send out their report, their financial report every year. I get one. I think all of the donors get one, and it's very transparent. It shows that all of the money that you donate goes for exactly the causes that they raise the money for. They have a separate set of donors that covers their administrative expenses. So every dollar that you give goes right towards saving those babies and helping the moms and the dads hear the life-saving truth, the gospel of Jesus Christ. And it doesn't stop there. You know, when they decide to choose life for their babies, they can get some assistance for up to 2 years, the first 2 years of that baby's life. And so just for $28, pays for one ultrasound. We are trying to raise $280,000 to help Pre-Born continue this good work that they are doing. And Financial Issues listeners and the Financial Issues partners have been a huge huge support to Pre-Born Ministries. I mean, they're everywhere now. You see them on Glenn Beck. I believe that they're on... who else is it?
They're with Tucker Carlson. They're on
Carlson.
Daily Wire. Ben Shapiro promotes them. I mean, Shana, it was fascinating to hear Dan say that we are the most pro-life radio show out there when he's on all these other big networks. I'm not trying to toot our own horn there, but that's just the impact of the Financial Issues family. We're not as big as Ben Shapiro. I don't know if you know that, but it's just really amazing, how the listeners have been so generous. Awesome.
It is. So, we have the most generous partners and listeners, I think, of any program. So, even for being as small as we are compared to these other ones. So, let's prove faithful once again. And you can go to, there's a QR code if you're watching the program. It's up on the screen. You can just point your phone there and you can give securely. They will know that it came from our efforts here at Financial Issues because there is a match. So for every dollar that we raise in this campaign through the end of May for Pre-Born Ministries, a generous donor is going to make a match to Financial Issues. So it's God's math again. You give, you pay for an ultrasound. So many ultrasounds grouped together, get a machine purchased. Machine cost about $15,000 for every 50 machines that we for every 200. Is it every 200?
Yeah, so it'll be every 200 scans.
Every 200 scans.
One ultrasound machine. So it's $5,600. It's at a discount. Yep. So it's going to be every time we get $5,600, that activates another ultrasound machine to be placed in a preborn clinic.
Yep. So we've got a very generous donor who has money that they want to deploy into the kingdom, and they're encouraging you by doing this match. So take advantage of that today. Your dollars are going to be leveraged and multiplied by God's math. Well, at Financial Issues, we help you to stay in the know about the financial issues of the day. We help keep you abreast of what's happening in the economy and the markets and help you understand how that impacts your own personal financial issues. So here are some of my takeaways from this week that is ending today, May the 16th, 2025. Well, the market surged this week after the U.S. and China agreed to a 90-day pause on tariffs, slashing reciprocal duties by over 100 percentage points. Since the start of the week, the S&P 500 climbed higher every day this week, racking up right at 4.5% gains so far this week, bringing it to within 4% of its record high. If you went to sleep mid-February and are just now waking up, you might not even know about the almost 20% decline that the S&P 500 has had in the meantime over worries about what would happen. The Dow Jones Industrial Average has risen 2.6% so far this week, while the NASDAQ Composite ripped higher by over 6.5%, showing that Wall Street's confidence that the guy that wrote the book on the art of the deal has still got it.
Amen.
Under the newest version of the trade agreement, the U.S. will reduce tariffs on Chinese imports from 145% to 30%, while China is cutting tariffs on U.S. imports from 125% to 10%. Effective for the next 90 days. This truce alleviated investor concerns over trade tensions, and market confidence has soared. The markets may feel good about what reduced tariffs mean for inflation, but Jay Powell, not so much. Inflation has eased, but the Fed is holding steady. April's consumer price index report indicated a continued cooling of inflation, with headline inflation rising 0.2% for the month and 2.3% year over year, and core up the same 0.2% month over month to an annual rate, looking back the last 12 months, of 2.8%. That's the lowest annual rate since February of 2021. Gas and groceries are down, with eggs dropping 13% since the Trump administration is no longer killing chickens. On Wednesday's show, I talked more about inflation, this topic, including that tariffs have not yet delivered the outsized impact of hyperinflation. The recent inflation is even more promising. If we annualize the 3-month inflation, we find that headline inflation sits at 1.2% for headline and 2% for core, at and under the Fed's target. And Trueflation.com is showing that the current rate of inflation as of May 14th is now 1.85%. So while the market likes what it's seeing, Fed Chair Jerome Powell, Mr. Too Late, is staying from his backward-looking data. He's saying from his backward-looking data that his posture is still sticking firm on not moving interest rates down despite all of the pressure from President Trump. He's saying that the U.S. could be entering a period of volatile inflation and persistent supply shocks. He said in a speech that, quote, inflation could be more volatile going forward than during the inter-crisis period of the 2010s. He added, we may be entering a period of more frequent and potentially more persistent supply shocks, a difficult challenge for the economy and for central banks. Interbank lending rates, which is what the Fed controls, are less likely now to get stuck at the lower bound, Powell said, as they did in 2008 and 2015 when the Fed kept the rate around 0%. Well, I don't know what could be more shocking to supply chains than flipping off the switch to the world's economy by locking everyone in their homes and sending them lots of money to spend that was printed out of thin air while many still collected paychecks from their jobs that they got to start doing from home. Walmart reported earnings this week with a slight miss on revenue, but a beat on the bottom line. And they announced a milestone that their online sales were profitable for the first time ever. The mammoth retailer, Walmart, who is not biblically responsible, by the way, is weighing in on the notion that tariffs, even at the lower levels with China for the next 90 days, will force them to increase prices starting as soon as the end of this month, the month of May. And then certainly much more in June, said David Rainey, Walmart's chief financial officer. Rainey also said in a CNBC interview Thursday, quote, we're wired for everyday low prices, but the magnitude of these increases is more than any retailer can absorb. He went on to say, it's more than any supplier can absorb, and I'm so concerned that the consumer is going to start seeing higher prices. You'll likely begin to see that towards the end of this month and certainly much more in June. Walmart said that it expects net sales to increase 3.5% to 4.5% for the fiscal second quarter that we're currently in now, but declined to provide guidance for the earnings per share or operating income growth because of the fluctuating U.S. China tariff policy. But it held its annual estimate for operating income, and CEO Doug McMillon said on the company's earnings call that Walmart imports from China account for high volume in categories such as toys and electronics, and that on tariffs on China in particular, that will create the greatest cost pressure. He went on to say that food prices in the U.S. have gone up in recent years, and our customers have been feeling that all along. Thanks, Biden. Walmart will be trying to minimize the impact to consumers as much as possible without compromising its profitability. That's what smart companies do. CEO McMillon also said to shareholders that he won't let tariff-related cost pressures on some general merchandise items put pressure on food prices. And we'll end with Trump's first international tour with CEOs to the Middle East. President Donald Trump concluded with a high-profile Middle East tour this week, marked by significant economic agreements, diplomatic engagements, and controversial policy shifts. Saudi Arabia committed to $600 billion in investments. Qatar committed $1.2 trillion, and the UAE announced over $200 billion in deals during Trump's visit there. He also visited with with world leaders or leaders in the Middle East and announced a shift in the policy in Syria. He met with Syria's new president, sort of giving them a grace, indicating lifting sanctions as a good faith olive branch to get them to play fair and spend less time strengthening their alliances with Iran. President Trump was accompanied by lots of U.S. business leaders, including Elon Musk, Sam Altman, Larry Fink, Andy Jassy, Jensen Huang, the CEOs of Boeing, Palantir, Citigroup, IBM, Blackstone, Coca-Cola, and LinkedIn. Their presence there underscored the administration's emphasis on the economic diplomacy, aiming to secure substantial investments and partnership in these sectors. I like what Trump's doing here. I'll have to tell you why, though, when we get back from our break. Now hear the music. Stick around, folks. If you have to leave us, we encourage you to find the full show on podcast or at financialissues.org.
In the last 10 to 15 years being in ministry, being married, something that has been constant in our lives is Samaritan Ministries. As we've moved, we've had babies, we've had different things come up, we have just been able to rely on Samaritan in ways that we never really even thought about before becoming members.
Our heart's desire is to plant roots and be in a place for a really long time. It's how we were raised. We see the benefits of that, but we also see the open-handedness of being used by the Lord wherever He calls, because we just assumed when we started pursuing church planting, the quickest way to get from point A to point B is a straight line. And with the Lord, sometimes you find out it looks a lot more like this. And yet, Samaritan was with us through the entire thing.
We didn't have to look into, we have to change insurances now because we've moved states or whatever the case may be. And it's just been a real blessing to us in different phases of life.
I'm Kyle.
I'm Colleen.
And we're the Gen X.
And we're Samaritan members.
Every day, thousands of women are faced with the decision of whether to have an abortion. But one ultrasound can change everything. Pre-Born is stepping in to help. In crisis pregnancy centers across the nation, they offer women the opportunity to see their baby, hear the heartbeat, and learn about the gospel. For just $28, you can provide an ultrasound, giving a mother the chance to choose life. And there's more. When we reach 200 ultrasounds, Pre-Born will place a new ultrasound machine in a clinic, creating a lasting impact for years to come. To make your gift go even further, a generous donor will match every dollar you give, doubling your impact. Give today, save lives, share hope. Don't wait. You can make motherhood possible. Just go to preborn.com/FISM to give now. Again, that's preborn.com/FISM.
Every day, kids all across America are coming to school with some kind of hidden pain.
I've seen kids come in who are just so confused about what's right and what's wrong, just having no idea that God loves them. And this just breaks my heart. Crossroads has the opportunity to bring the Word of God right into the public school, to reach children right where they are.
And when we see that happen, we see God changing lives.
We want to see kids not only come to Christ, but pursue a lifelong relationship with Him. And so local churches are uniquely positioned to disciple those children as they become young adults and through their lifespan.
Crossroads comes alongside a church and provides that church with a club structure, curriculum, training, and ongoing coaching for them to run these outreaches in public schools.
If you are burdened for the children of America, consider making a donation to Crossroads Kids Club. For more information, visit reachOurschools.com. That's reachOurschools.com.
Welcome back to Financial Issues. I haven't talked much about it, but our phone lines are open today, and it is Rapid Fire Friday. So if you have a question, give us a call, 610-363-1110. You can call us about whatever you want. If you've got a question about the markets or, one of my favorite topics to talk about, biblically responsible investing, or even more, planned giving, and, how you can be really creative in the way that you give, or if you want to talk about what Pre-Born has meant to you. I know that there was somebody in the chat talking about how they would never, or they would have never known about Pre-Born if it hadn't been for Dan Celia bringing it to their attention. So we have continued that tradition, and May is the month that we help Pre-Born hopefully raise lots of money. So we're a little bit below where we would like to be at this point in time. We want to see lots and lots of babies saved. We want to see lots and lots of mothers hear the life-saving gospel of Jesus Christ, and we want to help them bring up their children in the fear and the admonition of the Lord. So if you haven't given, please do it. If you're using creative ways, like we talk about here on the show, a lot of times if you're giving appreciated stock, which Pre-Born does take, make sure that they know that it's a result of the encouragement you heard from Financial Issues, so that we will get the match. If you're 70 and a half and you're giving from your IRA, I would encourage you to get that done now. It takes a little bit of time. Usually that check has to be distributed and mailed from the custodian. So you want to get it there by the end of the campaign, by the end of May. And just, a lot of times they don't know where it came from. So in the memo section, you can put that it came from you. And it was a result of the FISM campaign. So you can just make note of that too. If you're sending a donation in a non-traditional way, like not through our link or not by calling them, make sure you let Pat know, especially if it is a large donation, so that we can get that earmarked for the math, God's math, the additional match, leveraging your giving.
Amen. And, Shana, speaking of that, we've had some folks asking, should I, if say I have, $1,000 to give, should I split it, give 500 to FISM, 500 to Pre-Born? And we would say emphatically, no, give it all to Pre-Born. Give it all to Pre-Born. It blesses them, number one. And number two, FISM ends up getting an equal match to that. So if you give it all to Pre-Born instead of splitting it, you're actually doubling your impact for both ministries.
If you're giving $1,000,
make sure to do that.
It's worth $2,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus partway towards an ultrasound machine. So it's even more than double.
Absolutely.
Well, let me pick up on my thoughts here. I was talking about in the second segment there, the getting you caught up in the know. We were talking about Trump's first stop on his international tour as president, this time to the Middle East. And I was saying, I like what Trump is doing here. So, of course, he gets criticism for everything that he does. But the thing that I like is that he is putting corporations in the spotlight. He is positioning companies for success so that the private sector will be the job creators in the United States. So this is a stark contrast to what the Biden administration was doing. The Biden administration's approach to creating jobs is where the government is the job creator of first choice. We saw government payrolls balloon under the Biden administration. So, why do I think this? Well, it seems like a no-brainer to me, but just consider this. What do you think works better? Here's a case in point. Compare the U.S. Postal Service to what UPS and FedEx does. Just think about your own personal experience. If you're going to order something, who would you rather have deliver it? The Postal Service, the U.S. Postal Service, or FedEx or UPS? Well, it comes quicker and in a more efficient delivery way, at least in my experience, when it comes from UPS or FedEx. Yep, in fact, Amazon, which is one of the largest retailers, they use all three of them. I order stuff and I get stuff from the Postal Service. I get some stuff. Most of the stuff comes from UPS, and then occasionally some stuff will come from FedEx or like another third party. The Amazon delivery services isn't really big in my area, but when the government does it, you're hearing Doge talk about all the time the fraud, waste, and abuse that is found. In fact, I've heard estimates that about 40 cents on the dollar of every dollar that the government spends goes towards administration cost and all of those things. So it's the private market is much more efficient in getting these things done because the private market is accountable. They're held accountable every 3 months when they have to report their earnings, like what just happened here. We just wrapped up first quarter earnings. The U.S. government, well, if they don't meet a budget, if they run out of money, they just ring up the Federal Reserve and print more. So it's, the private markets are much more efficient in doing this. And remember when Trump took his first tour, the first time that he was president, his first world tour, to encourage countries around the world to buy U.S. natural gas. Well, that ended up being a pretty decent thing for that industry. So what is coming next week? Well, looking ahead to next week, all eyes will be on continuing trade negotiations. Up next, India's on deck. It will be interesting to see what color carpet India rolls out as negotiations with China tend to look more promising. I think India stands to benefit greatly if China doesn't play fair, and I think India was sort of getting that favored status when China was retaliating against us. We'll also get a good bit of Fed speak next week. We've got lots of Fed officials speaking, and we'll get a glimpse into the housing markets. So now that you are in the know about the recent and upcoming financial issues, we hope you'll learn more about how we can help you integrate those issues into your own stewardship decisions. At Financial Issues, we equip you with the tools to defund darkness by being your own portfolio manager and managing a biblically responsible investment portfolio. And we encourage you to fund the light through biblically responsible giving, being a joyful, generous, and obedient giver. And we hope that you'll contribute to the Pre-Born campaign this month. So if you haven't already, I'd encourage you to become a partner. You'll get access to our asset allocation models, our weekly buy list, and we'll help you build your portfolio in a way that honors God. So remember that your investments have a purpose: defunding darkness. Fund the light, be a joyful and generous and obedient giver. You can find out this and much more on our website, financialissues.org. Well, we do have Craig back this week. I know we'll be getting to him in just about a minute, but is there anything we can squeeze in before we get to him?
Yeah, I think so, Shana. And you know what? We actually might be able to squeeze in one or two more questions as we're working on getting the ag up right now. So this first one comes from Matt in Warner Robins, Georgia, from the website. Matt was saying, by the way, Shana, he loved the conference call yesterday. I'd encourage all our listeners to go listen to yesterday's conference call. You did a great job.
Great, thanks.
So Matt is asking, how is money in a brokerage account taxed? Pretty simple question.
All right. Yep. So money that goes into a brokerage account, an investment account, transfer on death account, they're called different things, taxable account. It's all after-tax dollars that are invested. So it's just like money in your bank account. If you have it in a savings account and you earn some interest on it, you get a 1099 for it at the end of the year. That's reported to the IRS, and you have to report that as taxable income. So a brokerage account works the same way. In a brokerage account, if you are earning dividends or interest, that is reported in the form of a 1099, so you pay tax on that. And then if you sell your investment and have a capital gain, then that is reported as well, and you'll be taxed on that. All right, folks, here comes Craig. We're going to take a short break after that, and then we'll be back with more financial issues.
Shana, hang on just one second. I don't think we do have Craig right now. We can get to one more question though if you'd like. We've got another one here on the chat if you want to.
Let's do it.
William from, I think that's Mississippi, I want to say, saying, does an inherited Roth IRA have to be taken out within 10 years like a traditional IRA?
Yeah, so since the law did change, I believe in 2020, or a little before that, the Secure Act, if you inherited an IRA, whether it's a traditional or a Roth, from a non-spouse. So if you inherit it from a spouse, you still get to, the extended period to take the money out. But if you inherited it from a non-spouse and who died on or after January 1st of 2020, you now have 10 years to get that money out. So if the person you inherited from died before that time, you can still continue under the old rules. But since then, you have 10 years to take the money out. So that's a great thing with a Roth IRA because that gives you an additional 10 years of tax-free growth. Now, that's the current law. You may want to be prudent and start moving a little bit of that money out before that 10-year period gets there because I guess things could change. It would take a lot to change that. It would make a lot of people mad too if Congress changed the game. But anything's possible with Congress, even if they grow a backbone and start controlling spending in this country, which we hope that they'll do.
Yeah, long shot, but we hope they do.
Long shot, but right. Hey, we've seen more impossible things happen.
Amen.
Right?
Amen.
Well, our phone lines are open. If you've got a question, you need to get your call queued up now. 610-363-1110 is the phone number to call. I'm your host, Shana Burt. We're taking a break, but we'll be right back.
It's up to us to stand up and say, enough is enough. All of this unbiblical stuff that's going on, whether it's abortion or transsexual or LGBTQ, widespread pornography, human trafficking. Bottom line, it's still up to us. If we stop investing in these corporations that are trying to destroy us, sooner or later they're going to wake up.
To learn more about biblically responsible mutual funds and ETFs, go to timothyplan.com.
May is a time to honor mothers, their strength, sacrifice, and unconditional love. But for many women, motherhood feels uncertain and overwhelming. Fear and doubt leave them considering abortion. You can give hope. Just $28 helps a woman hear her baby's heartbeat, a powerful moment that leads 80% of mothers to choose life. Go to preborn.com/FISM to give today.
I remember my life before I met Jesus. I was most of the time afraid. I remember one of my teachers gave the classroom an invitation for Crossroads. When they talked to me about the love of God, I felt a sort of peace in my heart. I learned how to pray to God. It helps me through my day. I will commit myself to learn more about God's Word, to be able to share the gospel to others. Jesus has been a big impact in our family. Now we go to church every Sunday. I see more happiness and less arguments. God's love is so perfect, I will not change God for anything.
To help reach more kids like Louise with the life-changing hope of the gospel, visit reachOurSchools.com.
The opinions and recommendations expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the opinions of the station or any of the program sponsors. Additionally, all products or services offered by the program sponsors may not be known by the program.
Welcome back to Financial Issues. If you want to try to get your call in, you need to do it now. 610-363-1110. Sorry, I tried to slow down. 610-363-1110 is the number to call. You'll need to get it dialed in about the next 60 seconds if you want to be sure to get in today. We do have Craig back. We had a little bit of trouble getting the technical behind the scenes things that needed to happen. So we are going to have it up on the website, but we won't have it on the show today. So go to financialissues.org and you can hear Craig's latest update. Well, the markets have opened, and they've opened in mixed territory. The Dow is down 20 basis points just slightly. The NASDAQ is up about 15 basis points, and the S&P is near the flat line, barely in positive territory. Oil is up. Oil is about $62 a barrel. This is one of the things that is helping with inflation. I know it makes me smile every time I go to the gas pump and see gas prices much lower in the $2 range in my area. I don't know. What is it up there with
Shana.
you guys?
It's still in the $3 range because Pennsylvania is communist. But I do love my home state. It's $3.30 in Pennsylvania right now. The national average is $3.20. So yeah, looking a lot better than it did around 2022, 2023.
Yep. Almost back down to where it was when Trump was in office the first time. Yep. So, we've actually seen oil drop into the high 50s, and Makes me wonder. I'm going to take a look at what's happening with the strategic oil reserve to see if we're filling it up yet, but maybe
Shana,
not.
I had heard news that we were going to. I haven't heard any of the latest on that, though.
Yeah, we've been hearing that for a long time since they drained it.
That's true.
And
from several administrations.
Start filling it up when it went below 72, and we're well into that territory right now, but maybe not, because I think the goal for the Trump administration is to get oil maybe even a little bit lower. This does help with consumer inflation. It sort of hurts the oil companies, but you know who else it hurts? Russia. Hurts Russia. So Russia is financing their war machine through the sale of their oil, and if they're having to sell it at $40 or $50 a barrel right now, that's going to put a hurting on them, which means that it's kind of a vicious cycle, because they're going to have to sell more of it just to get the same money that they need, which is going to put more oil on the market and potentially lower prices. And then you just heard, the places in the Middle East say that, you even heard Saudi Arabia say, drill, baby, drill.
Yeah,
that was so funny.
That's awesome.
So many interesting things happening. So, Let's finish up with some questions. What do we have?
Yeah, sounds good, Shana. So we'll start here with a couple questions on E36. So Barbara and Jim both asking about E36. Barbara is invested in it, just became aware there's going to be a class action lawsuit against them. She qualifies for the suit. She's wondering, should I get involved in the suit? Down 44%. I'm using the growth and income tracker, and I'm not currently withdrawing from my IRA or Roth IRA. She's 67. Maybe we tackle hers first, Shana. What would you have for her?
Yeah, well, it's not really permissible or ethical for me to give legal advice, and that's really what that would be if I said yes or no, do or don't get involved. I can tell you, I tend to avoid the lawsuits in general. These class action lawsuits about these kind of things, they tend to take a long time, and in my experience, the real winners in all of this are the lawyers that bring the suit. So, you could read about it. If you have a legal professional that you trust, maybe ask them what they think about it.
Yeah. And then Jim asking if he should buy more of E36, considering its current price. He said, I'd be reducing my cost basis notably. The original cost was about 35% above current pricing. He's 71.
I'd hang on right now. I probably would not. I'd look for other places.
Yeah, sounds good. So the next one up, Shana, is Joel. Joel has an interesting question here. It seems like it maybe is a little bit more of a criticism, but let's try to maybe weave through and see what he's saying. So he's saying, Shana, I'm disappointed that you guys decided to drop the TSP model just because they use standard S&P index funds. Dan Celia supported the war fighters, civil servants by providing this asset allocation model despite these unsupported companies being in the mix. He's saying, I maintain 2 brokerage accounts that have around 60 grand of individual stocks that are according to your recommendations. I do want to borrow 500 grand from my TSP to open up a brokerage. When I retire, I'll move the money out of my TSP, but that's not for 11 years. Joel's 54, Shana. What would you have for him there?
Well, I would say that the main reason that we dropped the coverage of the TSP plans was not because they're not biblically responsible. That did factor into the equation. We don't want to give the appearance that we support, investing in things that are not biblically responsible, but that's not the main reason. The main reason that we did it is because, the TSP plan used to be pretty simple, only offering a few options for people to invest in. Now that menu has expanded greatly. So we do not have the human resources to do a really great job on evaluating all of those. We follow 300 different positions between 3 team members. And so it's just, we don't have the time to focus on doing the TSP. There are also a lot of pretty decent resources that you can use on the TSP website to figure out where, what your risk tolerance is, where you want to go. The second thing that I would address there is to be careful with the loans. So if you're considering taking a loan from your TSP plan, what happens is basically you get that money back. You do have to pay that money off within a 5-year period. So you have to make sure that if you're going to take that huge chunk of money out, that you can afford to make the payments to pay that money back within that 5-year period. If not, it's counted as a taxable distribution. And in addition to that, I don't know, how how much job security you feel like you have. But if you leave the company within that time period before you pay the money back, any money that you haven't paid back will be counted as a taxable distribution. And since you're under 59 and a half, be subject to a 10% penalty. So make sure that you explore all of the risk and details with taking a loan.
Good stuff, Shana. Thank you for that. David is up next here. David's 69. He's saying, I'm starting a simple IRA with Fidelity because my employer will match 3%. Our Roth and investment accounts are currently with Fidelity. I have to choose where the contributions should be placed, and the form only mentions mutual funds in the choices. Where should these contributions go? Wouldn't mind being a little more aggressive with this investment. I appreciate you and your team. Again, David is 69. What do you think?
Yeah, so my first choice would be to use the money that's going into the employer plan that has a limited menu of investments to fill out any fixed income portion that you have. Does it say which model he's using?
He doesn't say which model.
But he's 69.
He's 69.
So I'm going to just go out on a limb and say that he's probably following the growth and income model since he's still working. So I would use the money that's going into that plan to fill out your cash portions, to fill out your fixed income portions, because usually there are, at least a stable value fund or a U.S. Treasury fund that could be considered biblically responsible, and you can fill out your fixed income portion there. Don't feel like you have to be aggressive with that because you're making 100% return already just by investing the money and getting the match. So if they're matching dollar for dollar, that's 100% return on the money right up front, and then you can use it to fill out that fixed income portion.
That's awesome. David, I'm in a similar situation as you, and that 100% match is such a good feeling, Shana.
Right,
it really is. So that's good. Shana, John from the chat is asking, he's wondering, there are several semiconductor stocks on the buy list. He mentions TE2, TE20, TE21. Which do you feel might be best positioned in light of the Trump tariffs, trade changes? What do you think?
At this moment in time, TE21 would be my pick. And it's not because of tariffs. I think most of the tariff issues are going to be resolved within the next 90 days. So that doesn't really factor in very much to the decision. But of the three that you mentioned that are all on the buy list, I would say TE21.
Awesome. Quick one here, Shana, from Bill. He's got a comment question. My trading platform was originally Scottrade, then TD Ameritrade, now Schwab. I'm trying to get them to exchange Timothy Plan mutual fund shares. I'd previously done this with TD in the past and no problem. However, Schwab seems to be a bridge too far, as he says. So I called them on Monday. As I'm writing this later in the afternoon, nothing has happened. What's up? Any other way that I can do this? He's 74.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't use those platforms. I can't really be tech support for them, but I would call tech support. I don't know, or consider maybe looking at changing your discount brokerage platform, but I would vet them out ahead of time before you do it. I just, unfortunately, I don't know the answer to that one.
And Shannon, I may have said, I have to ask Bill's forgiveness. I may have said Bob instead of Bill. That's Bill, and he's 74. That was his question there. So just so he knows. Boy, I don't know if we can squeeze one more in. I'd love to, but might be pushing it
Probably
a little
not.
bit. Yeah.
Folks, I hope you tuned into Bible study this morning and that you'll, if not, consider doing it next Friday. And more importantly, go make that pre-born contribution. Help us to get ahead of the curve. Help us to reach that goal before the actual deadline. So pray about that. We hope that you have a wonderful day of worship on Sunday, a great weekend this weekend, and that you'll come back next week because, Lord willing, we will be here to remind you that time is getting short. The Master is coming back. We want to be here to help you be found a good and faithful steward, faithfully deploying all and managing all of the resources that God has trusted you to manage. I'm your host, Shana Burt. Find out more about our ministry at financialissues.org.
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
Thank you for joining us. This has been an FISM production.